Sim.
Ah, tamam. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the panel. I am really happy to host you at the panel on behalf of Climate Change Policy and Research Association. Today, actually yesterday, the biggest and most important organization has been started for the climate change, and UNFCCC now is focusing on the climate change policies for 2 weeks. And last year it was happened in the Glasgow. Now we are in the Egypt. The Egypt, the main subject about the climate change here, in the negotiations, focused on the implementation and action. So because of that, we would like to prefer the focus on implementation and good practices in Turkey as a association. So we have now today three different speakers and from the three different sectors. One of the speaker is about the waste management, and the other is about the farming. Maybe you see that in the entrance of the conference there was a protest about the farming, livestock farming, and they were focusing on the vegan. So it is really good for us to discuss, have a discussion about the livestock management in Turkey because there is a really good practices at the phase livestock farming, and the other one is about the certification because certification is the main part of the EU ETS and also emission trading systems, which Turkey also focus on that area with the climate change law, because the climate change law draft has been prepared, and I think we will discuss in Turkey for a long time about that. Now I would like to first leave the floor to the Mrs. Piraye Gök, and she's representing the Academy Holding, and she has a really good experience for 30 years about the waste management, and she will focus on the waste and energy because they are producing energy materials from the waste, and she will first of all share that information. The presentations will be 10 minutes, each of them, each of the speakers. At the end of the speakers, we will have a question session, so we will talk about your questions. Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Ms. Private.
I'd like to welcome you on behalf of Akademi Çevre. As Baran told, I am the business development manager at Akademi Çevre. Um, my presentation is divided into 4 sections. I'd be happy to answer your questions at the end of my presentation. Before starting my presentation, I'd like to give information about Akademi Çevre. We started as a noise and sound measurement laboratory in 2005. In 2014, after completing all authorization processes, we started to provide integrated waste management services to corporate companies. With the effect of the expansion in the sector, we expanded our activities by increasing the number of licenses in order to achieve long-term strategic growth targets. In 2020, we established our Izmir and Adana recycling facilities, also the RDF facility in Kocaeli, which contributes to the national economy as an alternative resource to fossil fuels. Akademi Çevre is the affiliate company of Akademi Holding. Akademi Çevre provides integrated waste management services to its corporate companies. From environmental consultancy to environmental laboratory services, From logistics operations to recycling and recovery activities, we offer our customers end-to-end services. Here you can see the number of licenses, waste codes accepted to the facility, total capacity, number of licensed vehicles, and number of employees. And sustainability and global issues. Sustainability is to grow by meeting the needs of the day without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The concept of corporate sustainability is to consider not only the economic dimensions of business activities, but also the social and environmental dimensions of these activities. Corporate sustainability is about more than just protecting the environment, although that is core to this approach. A sustainable business is one that works in line with social and environmental goals rather than at odds with them. We all know that increase in population and the decrease in natural resources are at the forefront of global problems today. Here you can see the global issues. Here is the importance of sustainability is can be seen. For the environmental sustainability is the responsibility to conserve natural resources and to protect global ecosystems with the goal of supporting health and well-being. We have to manage processes with the awareness that the sustainability and efficiency of the operations are responsible only if they are in harmony with the environment. Global warming is a crucial problem today, and reduction in the emissions of greenhouse gases is being prioritized. And now I would like to give some information about RDF plans. The waste hierarchy is occurs in 5 steps: prevention, reduction, recycle, discovery, and disposal. Prevention is the most preferred and the disposal is the least preferred choice. RDF is a type of fuel that is preferred especially in sectors that use fossil fuels, where energy needs are intense. It's commonly used as an alternative fuel in cement factories. Access to energy and use of resources have an important place in the economic policies. Hundreds of types waste received by RDF plant must be analyzed based on parameters such as calorific value, chlorine content, moisture content, and heavy metal content, and a menu is prepared according to these analyses. Different types of waste are mixed based on the menu and shredded to produce RDF in accordance with the criteria specified in the relevant regulations, which may vary based on the working principles of the cement plants. And RDF use in cement industries. The cement sector has been known as a sector with intense environmental impacts for many years, especially air pollution, noise pollution, climate change, and consumption of natural resources are among the most important environmental effects. In the target of sustainable cement production, there are economic solutions in order to improve the environmental quality without disturbing the ecological balances. In Turkey, approximately 35 of 55 cement factories have license to use alternative fuels. Also, there are 43 licensed RDF plants in Turkey. The use of alternative fuels has reached 88,000 tons in 2008, and reached in 1 million tons in 2018. This figure corresponds to a thermal substitution rate of approximately 7%. Cement production accounts for about 5% of the global emissions. Emissions from the cement production can be classified as direct and indirect emissions. Direct emissions are plant control emissions. Indirect emissions are the result of activities at the facility but originate from other facilities. Here you can see primary fuel use in cement factories. Natural gas is the most used fuel because the lower operating cost petroleum coke and coal are also used. And in this table, as you see, RDF is the most used second fuel in cement factories. Cement production provides the most suitable combustion environment for all alternative fuels due to its processes. While producing an alternative fuel, RDF production facilities also classify different waste management in the waste and allow these materials to be used and recycled. The energy produced by, in the table you can see, the energy produced by 1.3 tons of RDF is equivalent to the energy produced by approximately 1 ton of coal. This shows that RDF can be used instead of coal. On the other hand, the amount of carbon dioxide produced by the incineration of RDF is very low compared to that of fossil fuels. And by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, we also have some advantages. Reduction in fuel costs, drop in specific energy, conservation of natural resources, domestic and renewable energy use, and competitive advantages. With the revisions in the environmental law, our country efforts to implement the principles of circular economy have gained momentum. Especially with the circular economy, action packages, basic legislation updates regarding waste management and recycling have been completed. In Turkey, additional fuel use in 2020 is 1.2 million tons. That means 700,000 tons of saving from the petrocoke and from fossil fuels have been prevented. In our country, efforts are made to use RDF as fuel in different sectors, for example, lime, ceramic, iron steel sectors. A common implementation calendar under the coordination of the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change, Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, Ministry of Industry and Technology, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, Ministry of Treasury and Finance. National Circular Economy Action Plan addresses the product throughout its life cycle, aiming to support the product design, circular economy processes, strengthen sustainable consumption, and keep the resources used in the economy as long as possible. For a green and circular economy, sector-based due diligence, sectorial impact analysis, identifying priority sectors, establishment of measures and compliance calendar will be established. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much, Piraye Gök. In Turkey, actually, the waste management sector is really getting stronger. and new companies has been established, and Ministry of Environment really is supporting the new companies to reuse, recycle, and get the energy from the wastes. So it's really good practice for us, for Turkey, and we're happy to share more details if you have any questions at the end of the conference. Now, I would like to introduce you Mr. Sencer Solakoğlu. Actually, he's the most famous farmer in Turkey, maybe in the world, I don't know, because he has really good experiences and good practices because they are using really international standards in their farm. And Blue TV, there is a documentary, name is Farmer Pets to World Record in English. But in Turkish, çiftçi başarıya giden, rekora giden yol olarak tanımlanmış. So, Mr. Sencer Solakoğlu, we also doing a project with our association. So we have a really good relation about the climate change and waste management and also the energy efficiency. So he will now share his knowledge and his experiences with us about climate change and GHG. Thank you.
Okay, so the farmers are generally blamed for everything, so we are the bad guys. So I want to talk to you about why blaming necessarily the farmers isn't always the, let's say, the best idea, because it just makes people give up. And people, human beings, need food and they need to somehow get their nutrition, and we are the ones producing it. So we have, at my farm, we have put a goal. Okay, the goal in the world is for 2050 to have offset all the emissions, and we have done the same thing, and we have come up with some really interesting results where we are saying maybe it is possible to have zero carbon emissions, not zero carbon emissions, but being carbon neutral at one point or another. And I think this will be the solution. Killing the cows, I don't think the viable solution when you think that almost 3 billion people go hungry to bed in the world. So we need to produce food. So where did we start? Well, with their association, we started to measuring first the carbon emissions that we have. We needed to know where we are in order to tackle the problem, to say, okay, this is what we need to offset. So we are at that stage. And then we have looked around and said, how can we minimize and not only the production cost in terms of carbon, but also making a sustainable production? What are the instruments? And we've seen that when you're researching it, farmers are generally blamed without any advisory. I mean, everybody is saying something, but nobody is really advising them how to do it. One of the problems, I think, is also that the consumers aren't demanding it. So whenever there is money to be made in anything, farmers will be there. So they will try to strive for it. But if people, if the world expects from farmers to change the way they do things without paying anything in return, the farmers are not going to be able to do that, because it's a very competitive sector. It's not a sector where you make huge amounts of money. It's rather something done on family basis where people are just making enough to get by. This is the world situation. So in our project, we said, okay, it needs to be sustainable. So where we started is we decided to make the consumer more aware of where we are with our product. So we know that, for example, how many kilograms equivalent carbon emissions we have per liter of milk that we are producing. That was the starting point. Then we have seen very quickly that productivity is one of key ingredients here. If you have a cow left on pasture giving 5 liters or 10 liters of milk, the amount of emissions that they are giving out is almost equivalent to one in an industrial farm as mine, for example. So to produce for the same amount of carbon emission, to produce more produce, more milk, more meat, is definitely one way to tackle the problem. And then the water consumption was the second thing that we wanted to tackle. And seeing that the earth, the soil is being depleted of organic matter. And for farmers to have organic matter in the soil is very important for activity as well as for sustainability for next generations to come. So we have started to work on a program where we can actually clean the water with algae. So algae are an extremely efficient carbon sponges that actually also make use of the nitrogen and the potassium and the phosphor in their manure. So the water of the manure, basically, mainly that we are talking about. So growing algae in that can actually make the water reusable at one point. So we are actually tackling this problem, and we hope that we can minimize the water usage. So our first aim for 2025 is to make one half of what we are using today to use half of the total water amount that we're using to produce the same amount of produce at the end of the day. For this, we have to invest, and there is no return on our investment. So as a farmer, to invest in sustainability and on the environment needs to be somehow financed by banks and other financial institutions, but people are generally very cold. They are not very eager to tackle this problem because, like I said, everybody's blaming the farmer. To work with the farmer is generally not a very pleasant thing, and also from the PR point of view for the banks. So we believe that in a near future, instead of killing the cows and getting rid of agriculture, I think we will find ways to make it sustainable and environmentally friendly. And we strongly believe that if the demand and if people's awareness of um, environment generally will accelerate this problem or this progress. Let's put it that way. For example, if a consumer comes and says we are going to pay an extra amount of money for the milk that you produce just because it's environmentally friendlier, that would definitely make a change. I've seen in these few days at the COP27 that problems are being talked over and over. And in every sector, in the financial sector, in the heavy industry, waste management, everywhere the problems are actually very, very similar. But in many, I have not seen the farmers being represented here at COP27. And I wish for the next summits that the farming community be more involved in environmental issues, and that consumers should be also made aware that this is not the way just putting some um, advertisement on why everybody needs to be vegan and to show as a reason the environment. I don't think is the solution or is a contribution to the world. What we are doing is contribution to the world, and I hope that in the near future that governments and financial institutions be more supportive of us in making things better and making the world more a livable place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Uh, by the way, Turkish ambassador is with us. Thank you very much for your participation. We are really very happy. Mr. Salih Mutluşen, thank you very much for your attention. And now Mr. Okay Kayhanlı will make a presentation. He is also very famous in certification body sector. They are working on the certification for the GHG, and they have also quality management works. And he will share with us about the MRV systems and what we do in Turkey. Thank you very much.
Hello all, welcome to our presentation. Sencer is most famous, I think. Yes, my name is Okay Kayanlı. I'm founder of the QSI certification. We are certification body and also first and biggest verification body in Turkey. Today we will talk about our MRV system in Turkey, how we will make audits and how we will make verification in Turkey. I just give very brief information. Yes, uh, we have a MRV system last 7 years, and we have a totally one main regulation about our MRV system. Name is Regulation of Monitoring and Verification of Greenhouse Gases. Under this regulation, we have another two regulation. One of for facilities, they have this regulation explain the organizations how they calculate their emissions, how they monitor their emissions. Second one for verifiers, how the verification will be done in Turkey and how we get our accreditation. So second one for us. Firstly, all the facilities have to check their activities, and they have to decide are they calculate their emissions or not. So we have a regulation for this. After this decision, and facilities has to decide which group they have, and we have a totally 9 group like Europe. We got this regulation from the Europe. It's very similar to EU ETS system in Europe, and we have a totally 9 group. And nowadays we are also calculating it, Corsia and 10 groups. Firstly, all facilities has to prepare their monitoring plans. It's beginning of this stage. All companies, all facilities has to prepare their monitoring plans, and these plans has to approved by our Ministry of Environment. Uh, this is estimated emissions. They have to calculate their estimated emissions. After then, which emissions they have to calculate? We never calculate mobile combustions. We never. But every companies has to calculate all emissions, small, medium, doesn't matter. All emissions has to be calculated, but not mobile emissions. After the calculations, we have a totally 4 categories according to estimated emissions. Uh, After the calculations, we see the companies has to follow which rules according to these categories. And there was a very important dates for our MRV system. One is 15 October. All the companies has to make a contract with the verification bodies. This is end of final dates, and also end of the year. All strategic analysis has to be done, and also end of the April, all calculated and verified emissions has to send our governments. our verification times defined by our Ministry of Environment. We have at 4 categories. The smallest one, we have to visit 1 day to company. For category A, we have to visit 2 days. For category B, we have to visit 4 days. And for category C, we have to visit 6 days to companies. This is different from the EU. Uh, this application is valid just for Turkey. Yes, Mr. Evren writing, and this is really very, very important. The aim is to standardize verification times. It's very important for us. Everybody gives the same time and same prices to companies for verification. Firstly, all verifiers has to visit companies and has to complete strategic analysis. What's the meaning of strategic analysis? We have to visit companies and check their activities, and we have to check their monitoring plans. Outputs of the strategic analysis, we are reporting this stage, and we made our sampling plan, test plan, and risk analysis. Then, after the strategic analysis, we have to start process analysis. It's done 2 ways, site and office. What are we doing during our process analysis? Firstly, we have to check data. We have to be sure data is correct, and method verification, verification of procedures, and verification of personnel competency. The reports are prepared by the companies in our online system. We have an online system. Our government have an online system, and also verified reports must be submitted to the Ministry of Environment end of April every year. And also all the verification companies has to get their accreditation from the TÜRKAK. We just apply to TÜRKAK. Another accreditation body is not accepted. And also we have to full-time 2 lead verifier and 1 verifier. We have to work with them. And we have enough technical teams to get our accreditation. And summary of our verification: contracting, strategic analysis, site visit, office studies, independent review, and reporting, and finally we gave the all reports to our environmental departments. And nowadays also there was lots of our companies working with CBAM for taxes. And we have a EU ETS system also, and CBAM system is also coming, and voluntary calculation also another system. And in this table you will see which emissions you have to calculate for these standards. I think Mr. Sancar is working with voluntary site nowadays. There was 6 categories, but only category ones will be, only category ones we will pay the tax for the category one's emissions. Let me show it. Category 2 is for energy, category 3 for transportation emissions, category 4 purchasing emissions, 5 coming from product usage and products waste. But everybody is asking, will we pay the lots of tax for example, category 5, category 4, or category 3? Our answer is no. Only category 1 and category 2 important for carbon taxes. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Okay Kayanlı. If you have any questions, we will be happy to answer. No questions? Okay. Maybe you can. Okay. Thank you. Just a follow-up to Okan-based presentation. I was a former employee of the Ministry of Environment, and I am I was a part of the team which prepared the National Monitoring Reporting and Verification legislation. Um, in 2009, after we opened the environmental chapter with the EU, we quickly began, uh, transponding their legislation in the environmental chapter to into our national legislation. Uh, the the legislation that is being discussed here for the monitoring, reporting, and verification system is a part of the EU ETS. And while transforming that set legislative text, we also try to fill the gaps which might not be applicable for the EU but applicable for Turkey. One of those was somehow to leveling the playing ground for the verification bodies, and the reason was that the business practices in Turkey are, let's say, different than what the EU companies are, uh, their practices. So yes, we have additional rules like the minimum verification mandates for each category of installations, and we have a minimum mandate rate, so that and also we have a minimum days that is to be spent on site. So everybody is leveled at a certain price and a certain mandate. So all verification bodies will perform uh, more or less the same, and it worked very well. So what I'm just trying to say in short is that every legislation that is being implemented in every country should be also adjusted to the circumstances of that country. So this is all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentations and the insights from the core of the sectors. This is Özge Kepenek Bozkırlıoğlu. I am part of the project team to prepare the Turkish long-term strategy and NDC, and I am responsible for the industrial sector. And my comment and maybe a question to the first speaker. Thank you for the information related to RDF and the usage in the sector, especially in the cement sector. Actually, we use the numbers you already gave about the total tons of RDF used and the thermal substitute in the sector. And actually, we had already made some projections for the 2030 and 2050. Maybe you also have some numbers or projections about usage of RDF, especially in the cement sector, maybe in the heavy industry in general. And it will be good to know your view on the future of RDF in Turkey, because the numbers are still really behind the average of EU and the one of the biggest European countries like Germany. And this is my comment and question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. As you say, in European countries, most of the cement factories are using RDF for getting energy, and in some countries it is it close to 100%. But in Turkey, it's very less. In some cement factories, 20% of RDF is used according for instead of fossil fuels. But as you say, we have to use more RDF in cement factories, maybe in lime and in steel companies also must be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any More questions, or would you like to add anything? No? Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. As an association, we believe that we should share all the implementations, good practices to the world. So because of that, we organized that panel. We will continue to share good practices to the other countries. And thank you for your attention, and thanks to all the speakers. They have really good experiences, and we will be happy always to get their experiences for the world and for our country. Birkaç cümlede Türkçe söylemek istiyorum. Çevirisi olsun diye. Biraz süremiz kaldığı için. Çok teşekkür ediyorum katılımlarınız için. Olabildiğince yaptığımız çalışmaları, güzel çalışmaları anlatmak lazım. Eleştirme konusunda çok başarılıyız. İyi işleri anlatma konusunda başarılı olmayı da tercih etmeye çalışıyoruz. Bu anlamda Türkiye'deki güzel uygulamaları her platformda aktarmaya devam edeceğiz. Sayın Büyükelçimizin de katılmış olması bizi çok mutlu etti, dinlemiş olması. Eğer uygunsa hep beraber bir fotoğrafla çektirmek isteriz. Sayın Büyükelçim.